She had exactly 48 hours to find a husband, or the state of Texas was going to take her children away. Grace Alvarez stood in the hallway of the Harris County Courthouse, clutching a manila folder with trembling hands, staring at words that felt like they belonged to someone else's nightmare. Her late husband's sudden death 8 months earlier had left her drowning in debt, and now a cold, indifferent caseworker was telling her that her home no longer met the stability requirements for a single mother of 3. Grace had 36 hours left when she made the only decision that made any sense to her desperate heart. She walked straight into the small hardware store, 2 blocks from her apartment, looked at the quiet, gentle man behind the counter, a man she barely knew beyond friendly hellos, and said the words that would change everything. "I need you to marry me." If stories about kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances still mean something to you, take a moment now to like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel because this story is about to remind you what real love looks like when it shows up in the most unexpected way. Nathaniel Cole was 34 years old, a widower himself, quiet and steady, a man who had buried his own grief in the rhythm of stocking shelves and fixing broken locks for elderly neighbors. He had noticed Grace many times, the tired but determined young mother who came in for light bulbs and duct tape, always smiling at him even when her eyes looked hollow with exhaustion. When she said those words to him, breathless and ashamed of herself for even asking, he didn't laugh and he didn't step back. He simply set down the wrench in his hand and asked her to sit down and tell him everything. Grace explained through tears that this wasn't about romance, that she needed a co-signer, a stable household on paper, someone the court would see as reliable, just long enough to prove her children, 8-year-old Josiah, 6-year-old Naomi, and 3-year-old baby Ruth, had a real home. She expected him to refuse. Instead, Nathaniel asked only one question: "Do your kids like peanut butter pancakes?" It was such a strange, gentle response to such a desperate plea that Grace broke down completely. And for the first time in months, she let herself cry in front of someone who wasn't judging her. Over the following day and a half, something remarkable happened. What began as a legal arrangement slowly revealed itself as something far deeper. Nathaniel showed up at the small courthouse, hearing not as a stranger performing a favor, but as a man who had already spent the morning making pancakes for 3 children he'd known for less than a day, patiently listening to Josiah's endless questions about tools, letting Naomi braid ribbons into his shoelaces, and rocking baby Ruth to sleep, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The caseworker, a woman named Deborah Whitfield, who had seen countless families torn apart by circumstances beyond their control, watched the way this quiet man looked at Grace's children, not with obligation, but with genuine tenderness, and something in her hardened resolve softened. The judge granted an extension. Then, weeks later, full custody remained with Grace, family stability confirmed. But by then, the marriage that had started as a desperate legal maneuver had become something neither Grace nor Nathaniel expected. Grief had brought them together in the strangest possible way. But it was patience, honesty, and quiet daily kindness that turned a contract into a covenant. 6 months later, Nathaniel legally adopted all 3 children, and at their small backyard vow renewal, surrounded by neighbors and church friends, Josiah stood up uninvited and told everyone that Nathaniel was the best dad he'd ever had because he showed up when nobody had to ask him twice. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me what part of Grace and Nathaniel's story moved you the most. Sometimes the family we're desperately praying for isn't found through perfect circumstances, but through one brave, honest moment of asking for help, and one good person brave enough to say yes.